Hi and welcome to the garage. Couple of things about today's video and apologies. One, this is being shot, at least this section, on my phone camera. That is because the Canon P90 that I normally, P90? EOS 90. I may be confusing it with something else. It is sick. Well, actually it's not sick anymore. It was sick when I produced the last video. Those of you who hang out in the backstage behind the scenes area of the Discord chat will have seen me whinging because it was corrupting images. But most of this is going to be shot on the GoPro 5s, which I have up here. Most of the team uses GoPro 8s, but we have the old GoPro 5s up here. We run very efficient. Everything that we have gets reused. And like I said, the Canon went off to be repaired, not replaced. But today, what we're going to do is have a quick look at my Comma 3. Basically, we had a Comma 2 that was gifted to us as a unit that we could use to write and film reviews with, and it started to die. I loved that thing. I'd done thousands of miles on it. So when it started to get sick and needed a fan replacement, but at the same time, the Comma 3 was out and the Comma 3 had some significant technological advances, I looked at and then eventually traded in that Comma 2 towards buying a Comma 3. I say eventually, like I said, it was fairly quick. However, my unit has been unhappy for a while. It has had what initially started appearing as some connection issues. It appeared like there was a problem communicating with the car. It appeared like there were problems with power. We actually tried changing the USB cable as the first port of call. Well, actually, we tried updating the firmware first because it did a firmware update immediately before it started failing. And then, so I re-flashed it and reinstalled the software that I use, which is Sunny Pilot. That didn't work. As part of fault finding, we took it back to Open Pilot, ran it like that, and that actually seemed to fix it for a bit, and then no, it started having problems again. And then the next thing that we tried was replacing the USB cable that runs from the Panda to the car. That cable I replaced, and again, that seemed to fix it, and I had a couple of months of no real problems. And then it went horribly wrong, and then it started failing pretty frequently. It then also had a lot of issues where it would say that the CAN bus wasn't connecting properly, and it would disconnect. Sometimes it would just switch off. Sometimes it would switch off with the power warning beep, but sometimes it would just switch off. No warning, no, I've had my power disconnected. After looking on the forums, the Discord chat, because everything's a Discord chat now, and I love Discord, I do, but really some things should be forums. On the Discord chat, had a conversation, ended up with the suggestion that I should replace the USB connector in the back here, and so today the plan is to do that. Like I said, this is going to be a slightly different video. I've set up a couple of cameras, or I will set up a couple of cameras, and we will film those bits, what I'm doing, and I'll talk you through what I'm doing, and then if it's successful, we'll go out and test it. If it's not, then that's a discount on a new Comma that I have there, because I will be replacing it. So without any more further rambling from me, shall we get stuck in? Hello and welcome to the Director's Commentary edition of Transport Evolved. This is one of your bonus extras. Yeah, so what I'm actually going to do here is take apart the Comma 3. The back of the original Comma 3 is held on with 5 screws. These are all Torx screws, and they're little tiny ones. They're pretty easy to remove. Just of note, one of them is a different length, so it's useful to make a note of where the screws go. One of the ways that I do that is sometimes using this low-tack tape, which I put down and just draw a quick and dirty diagram where the screws lived in the device. Sometimes, like you'll see later in the video, I actually put a bit of double-sided tape on there. Well, actually, I usually just roll up a bit of the tape and then I use that to stick the screws in place. And once you've done that, the OLED screen comes off the front. It's actually really easy to remove, but you do need to be a little bit careful. So I grabbed a pair of ESD safe tweezers and just eased that little connector out. Fans of the channel will also note there is an ESD strap on the table, not on my wrist, but at some point I'm sure I'll remember to put it on. Then I removed the upgraded SSD storage that allows you to store more data in the 3. It allows you to keep many trips. So I threw that one into a little ESD safe bag. And then I spent a few minutes trying to work out how the hell you get this board out. I won't make you sit through all of it because there is quite a lot of me fiddling around with it. I had a little look online, it wasn't entirely obvious. And then I realized that you just remove the 2 hex screws from the back of the case. And once you've done that, you can just push the board out. Then it came time to remove the heatsink, and that was a little bit more fiddly. It just has the 4 screws, which you can see that I've taken out and then just pulled out with tweezers, a little bit fiddly to get them out. But that heatsink is also held in place by the GPS antenna, that's the little white cube there. Not, I think, exactly held in place by it, but the standoff that supports that also covers what I think is an electromagnetic shield, that little kind of foily piece of metal, and that is stuck to the heatsink, so you have to remove that. At the same time, well, you have to remove the GPS antenna to get that out. Once that's done, there's a couple of other connectors which you have to detach if you want to get things out of the way, which I did. And then, me being me and trying to be somewhat tidy, I just quickly grabbed one of my spare plastic boxes to chuck the parts that I'd removed in that I didn't want gunk getting on, because there's heatsink compound on the back of that, and I didn't have any spare heatsink compound, so I didn't want it getting dusty or dirty. And then there's this next board here. Now, since the other side of the board, the side you see when you open the case, has the NVMe drive, the Wi-Fi modem, the STM32 MCU, which is for the onboard Panda, the Maxim audio codec chip. It's got an SMSC USB controller, voltage regulators, things like that. I'm guessing that that board that I just removed there is actually the main processor, but I'm not absolutely certain. It has the heatsink on it, but that's my guess. Pulling that off required me to grab a pry. I don't have a set of pries because I don't normally take apart things that are this modern, and so I just used a car one. At this point, you actually have access to the USB-C, and I thought I'd grab my spare USB-C, make sure it was actually the right part, which it looks like it is. And then there's a period of time where I'm just staring at it going, how the hell am I going to get this off? Because it is a surface-mounted component, and one of the problems that I've had before with surface-mounted components and removing them is overheating the board, particularly things like the USB-C, which have a large piece of metal that can act to draw the heat away. But anyway, I got my rework gun out, started warming it up. I also have a little solder sucker, which I just moved out the way. Usually I use that on through-hole components, but I got it out just in case. And also, you know, sort of talisman of good luck. It was my dad's, and my dad was a much better electrical engineer than I pretend to be and play on YouTube. So then I fired up the trusty rework gun and spent about 20 minutes to half an hour attempting to heat up the USB-C component enough to pull it from the board. This is where things start to go wrong. Unfortunately, as is often the case with components like this, at least I find this often a problem, if they have that chunk of metal around them, even though it's quite thin, that can absorb a lot of heat and make it extremely difficult to get the solder underneath hot enough to take the component off. And as I've mentioned before, I have unfortunately delaminated boards attempting to remove components like this in the past, and I really didn't want to do that. So then I thought I would try my other technique, which is to attempt to remove the metal surround from it, leaving the pins in place, leaving that central connector piece in place, still soldered in place. Unfortunately, it turns out that my side cutters are extremely blunt, and in a moment of weakness, I thought, well, I've got my other wire cutters. I can just snip down the side of this metal case and unbend it and take it off, and that'll leave me access to the pins better. But, of course, that larger set of cutters, well, it didn't so much knock that central item that holds the pins that connect the USB-C. It broke it. It tore it off one side, and then I was like, oh, well, never mind, I'll just take it off, which was the wrong thought. And I cannot possibly explain why I thought that. I think I was just like, oh, well, I've screwed this up. I might as well just take it the whole way. As you can see from the macro shot here, basically all of the pads have gone from the connector, which is suboptimal, to use a phrase I like to use.
6 hours later.
Okay, so I went away and I licked my wounds a little bit and I made myself a baked potato and sat there and thought, how can I fix this? Is it worth trying? And Nikki said, you know, give it a go, see what you can do. And I know that what you can do is, and I have done in the past when I was repairing an old Acorn Archimedes, actually, an A540? No, an A5000. I've always wanted an A540. What you can do is you can remove the solder resist from the circuit board, and that gives you access to the actual tracks. And if the tracks were close enough to where the pad should be, then theoretically I could I could adhere new pads made out of small pieces of wire and then solder the connections in, and theoretically we could maybe salvage this. Seemed pretty unlikely, but, you know, what else was I going to do with my afternoon having spent the morning breaking it? To be fair, it was already broken. So then I cut a lot of very small pieces of metal and got some super glue, some CA glue there. And I took the opportunity to cover the cameras to make sure that I didn't drip glue on them, because given how the morning had gone, that seemed like a wise plan. Having done this, I then spent a lot of time sticking tiny bits of metal in, and I can't say that it was a great success, but I more or less had one side kind of lined up. As you can see, the tape managed to give way just there. And then I had a little go at soldering one or two of them, and it did not go well. I do not have a microscope. I do not have the kind of gear I think that I really needed to do this level of rework. It definitely was pushing the limits of what I do. In the past, I've done some surface mount rework, but on older equipment. I have repaired a Dyson fan at one point with a new power controller. But this was really at my limits, really a bit beyond the limits of my equipment. And yeah, let's hand over to me.
Well... that did not go well. So I'm gonna shove this into what in England we call a jiffy bag. It's not called a jiffy bag here. And send it back to Comma. I guess it's done its job. It did thousands and thousands of miles, and is useful. So I'm very sad, because I loved having this. It was a very, very early first generation Comma 3. But obviously I kind of screwed the pooch on this. So it's a really good learning experience though. And I think that's one of the things that I always take away from when I make mistakes. I had a great day yesterday. I finished reassembling my bass guitar, which is actually why the workbench was clear enough for me to consider doing this today.
But yeah, learning from this. One is, I am very hesitant about like reworking multi-layer PCBs after the incident with the object that's down here. Actually, is this the board? This is not the board, but this is one of the related boards. This is the this is from a Toyota Yaris or Prius C inverter, and this is not the board because this isn't the power control board. But there is a power control board down there which delaminated when I was trying to remove some components. And actually that's why I ended up buying the rework desoldering tool. But obviously that doesn't help with this kind of connector where you can't get to the pins. And what I should have done, what I was trying to do, and what I should have spent more time on, I think, is removing the can around it so that I could actually get to the pins to heat it. Because the problem is I was pouring heat in and that was, I think, being drawn away by the metal surround. So I wasn't managing to get the pins up hot enough. And then I was starting to get that unnerving feeling that I was just going to cook the board. And frankly, maybe that's what I should have tried to do, because my other technique, which is to like dismantle the casing around a thing that's difficult to remove, my tools are just not sharp enough for that. I clearly need to get some new cutters that actually are capable of doing that. But also I think that needs to be a much later step in my, like, this hasn't worked, let me try something else. I think the other thing is just being a bit more patient. I'm not by my nature a patient person. Who would have guessed as an ER nurse that I'm not a patient person and I like results quickly? I did give it a pretty good go at cooking it. Maybe I should have wound the temperature up a little bit more. I don't know. I don't know what I've learned exactly. But what I have learned over the years, and it's taken me a long time to get here, is that, you know what? It doesn't really matter. I mean, this is gonna financially suck for me, but there are worse things in the world, and yeah, I didn't manage to fix it, but it was broken before I started and it's still broken. There's a kind of thing that a lot of ER nurses have where people come in and they are functionally dead, and the thing is we try a bunch of stuff and there's sometimes like some concern from people about trying these things, and you're like, well, they're dead. I'm just not going to make them, I'm not going to make them more dead. I might make them less dead. And that's, you know, the approach that I've taken with this was like, it's worth a punt. Let's give it a go. I tried, I failed. Moving on, let's go buy a new one. And let's get that started today. I'm going to go talk to Comma today about getting a new one shipped, and how I go about trading this very dead one in. And then I've got a car update coming, so we'll give you a car update when that happens. All right, thanks for joining me in the garage. My next project is either the amplifier or the cassette deck or the computer that's under there, or maybe I'll have a look at the inverter. We'll find out. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us today. And if you've got thoughts, make sure you leave them in our Discord room, on our Patreon page, down below, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon or Blue Sky. Thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by on your screen right now. They're part of the massive community of supporters who make this channel possible, helping us through Patreon and YouTube, covering our bills, paying our team, and helping us to remain 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here and mispronounced horribly by me, just follow the links below. We've got options across a range of different price points from $1.50 US a month.
A massive welcome to our newest supporters, Roche Liu, Lynn Mogren, Yalalfi, Abigail, Jason Hellman, Mike, Raz Das, Jay, Jim Boyer, Trebor Stelefel HB, Calvin Clemie, Abel Ardo Conessa, John Snyder, Scott Matheson, Mia Hartman, Philip Paul, Randolph Lee, Simon Cottle, Stephen Meadows, BGB Thauben, Christian Rasmussen, James Holroyd, Robin Halston, MK Duffer, S.A. Gimpson, Chip Chandler, Jeff Harrop, N.Y. Murr, Robert Betancourt, Jason Bodor, Brian Newton, and Mark. To join the list and get your shout out, become a paid Patreon member for your moment of fame, and you can even gift membership to someone else. If you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll find links below to make Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations. And we even have an old-fashioned PO box you can reach us at, for the time being, addressed below. You'll also find links to our swag store, and if you are someone who has to shop on Amazon, please consider using our affiliate link so we get the commission, not Jeff Bezos. So we can continue to focus on making our content even better and reduce burnout, we're being a little freer with our release days, but plan on dropping new content every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on our main channel, plus something on Sunday over on TE Take 2. If you want more, the algorithm that hates us thinks you should be watching this video, but this video is the one we'd like you to check out. Be kind, be awesome, be intentional, and don't forget to resist. Keep evolving!